Hi, I'm Alberto Netti. I'm chairman of Mind the Bridge, and today I will bring you to Cyprus, in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, and the opportunity to make this digital trip to Cyprus is to meet Maria Georgiadou, who is managing director of Cyprus Seeds. Hi, Maria, and welcome.
Hello, Alberto.
So, Maria, we will discuss about what is Cyprus Seeds is about, what are the plans, what you're actually doing for trying to promoting entrepreneurship, innovation, technology in Cyprus. But I think knowing your story is important. I believe that your story is important to know why you are now involved in Cyprus Seeds. And so I will ask you to tell your story. I think as far as I can remember, you studied abroad. You have a long experience working in the US, you studied in the UK, and I think this kind of experience is a certain way forced your need to give back and to do what you're currently doing in Cyprus. So I will firstly ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit your story. That I think is very, very important and telling.
Thank you very, very much. Yes, I am the managing director for this non-profit company in Cyprus called Cyprus Seeds, which was launched 8 years ago after we were inspired by a program that has been run at MIT very successfully for the last 20 years, and whose objective it is to support the commercialization of innovative scientific research from academia. Before I became the managing director of Cyprus Seeds, I was with the biggest bank on the island for about 3 years as an external consultant, where I founded the first incubator accelerator on the island to support the creation of a pipeline of startups. And prior to that, I spent 25 years of my life with a different bank on the island, the Cyprus Development Bank, where I dealt with a number of areas, including the international clients who were attracted to Cyprus and to the Development Bank for services. My education, and I think you pointed it out very correctly, Alberto, was partly in the US and partly in the UK. And I think the education in the US, where I spent 4 years having received a Fulbright scholarship, definitely left a mark on me and influenced my personality and a lot of a big part of my behavior. So I did go to the US for my first degree, and I did economics and computer science, major in economics. And then I did a master's degree at Oxford University in the UK in development economics. But if I were to go back to my American education, I think I got many things from the American education, but one thing that left with me the personality and the communicative person I am is this exact thing: to be open-minded, to take risks, to work with teams, if you were to put it all together, I think to be an entrepreneur and to love risks and challenges. And this is why I think if I were to reflect back on what I learned from the US, not only from the education, but from my interaction with so many people, I thought people were very friendly, open, and I learned many things, and I traveled all around the US. This entrepreneurial spirit and mindset of mine is helping me to dare take risks. And this is why at the age of 50, I left a very secure job. I was one of the managers at the Cyprus Development Bank, earning one of the highest salaries in Cyprus. And I said, I can do better than that. So I left the bank, and I didn't even have a job. And I said, I'll find something. And therefore, the next thing I did was to pursue something in the area of innovation. Why? Because that was what I liked the most. And my love for the innovation world originated from the fact that I spent about a year at the European Commission as a stagiaire. This is the term that the European Commission still has, I believe, initially for 6 months, and I ended up staying almost a year. And there I was lucky to learn about EU grant programs supporting innovation. Go back a few years, many years ago, the notion innovation, startups, it was unknown in Cyprus. But when I left the Cyprus Development Bank and I was still pursuing things that the European Commission was doing, I was realizing the importance of innovation and how it could contribute to a better economy, to creating employment, to reducing the brain drain in a country. And therefore, this is why here I am today. 10 years after I left that secure job, I founded the first incubator accelerator on the island. Back then, as I said, I was with Bank of Cyprus. And the last 7 years almost, I designed Cyprus Seeds, which is a program to support scientific innovation. And it is focused on scientific innovation. And I've been the managing director of this initiative for the last almost 7 years.
No, I think it is a beautiful story, and at the end, each of us need to follow the passion, the drive. And I think one of the main teaching, if you spend time in the US, is the sense of purpose and is the sense of ambition that substantially contaminate you if you are working. Again, I was discussing with a friend of mine. I had my TEDx a few months ago, and then he was looking at my TEDx, and he was impressed by a sentence that I say, is that when you are in an environment that is full of top-class people, you raise your level of ambitions, and you are in a certain way, you're pushed to follow the same way. I think that the importance of going to the US, going to Silicon Valley, go to places like Oxford, when you are surrounded by top-class people, is that in a certain way, automatically you level up, step up a notch of all your level of ambition. You start dreaming larger dream, you start pursuing larger, more ambitious plan. And then I think it's pretty natural that at a certain point you are also ready to leave what you consider is a secure job to go after what you really keep you alive, that is your passion, your drive, and also the sense of the mission of giving back, that I think is relevant, because that's another lesson from the US. If you get to some places because of someone else, at a certain point you need to reciprocate and give back to something. But let's focus to Cyprus Seed. I think what is Cyprus Seed is about. I think there's been an MIT contamination with the SME instrument that you knew when you were in Europe working in the European Commission. So you are trying to do probably the most complicated things, is turning science into business, and potentially business is able to scale. It's a big mission for everybody, but we don't see, particularly in Europe, so many implementations. So what is the secret formula that you are trying to cook in Cyprus?
You have said it so well. It is such an impossible mission almost. Sometimes I say, why am I doing it? But
But there is no other way. If you have to do something, you do it. And then you might ask yourself why I'm doing it. But then it's what you want to do, you will do it. And you will continue to do it. So there is no way back.
It's that challenge that keeps us young, isn't it, Alberto?
Yeah.
So Cyprus Seeds, it was not my idea, by the way. The idea of Cyprus Seeds was of a Cypriot philanthropist who has been extremely supportive of education in Cyprus and the universities in Cyprus, and closely observing what's happening in the universities of Cyprus. So this individual was observing that there was indeed a lot of talent in the universities of the island, but nobody of those talented professors, academics, researchers, PhDs would dare take their innovative research to the market. They would keep it in the universities, and the maximum they would pursue is publications. So this individual wanted very much to support the taking of this innovative research out of the laboratory closer to the market, and giving solutions to world problems in any area, and by so doing having impact. That is the beginning of Cyprus Seeds. That is when I was invited to design a program to support this vision. So that was about 8 years ago. I was then managing this incubator accelerator program I mentioned earlier, whose name is IDEA, which means innovate, develop, excel, accomplish. I'm proud of this name because I gave it to it. And then I was invited to consider this job, and I accepted, as I thought that 3 years with the IDEA incubator accelerator, I learned a lot about supporting business ideas, innovative ideas, and that was exactly the point of that incubator. But I was really intrigued with the challenge of commercializing scientific innovative ideas. And that is why Cyprus Seeds was formed. We worked closely during the first year of Cyprus Seeds with the University of Cyprus, which is the biggest public university on the island, to customize this program we were introduced to by MIT. Similarly to the individual I mentioned earlier who has supported the beginning of Cyprus Seeds, a different individual, an alumni of MIT by the name Deshpande, who left MIT and commercialized his research and became rich. He donated 20 million to MIT to support the commercialization of other ideas coming out of MIT. So that is why the center supporting the particular objective is called Deshpande Center for Technology Innovation, and that's with whom I've been working the last 7 years to implement the Cyprus Seeds program in Cyprus. To give you an idea of what we do, because you have asked what does Cyprus Seeds do, we announced an 18-month, we announced a call every couple of years, I'd say, to attract the very best scientific teams from all the universities and research centers of the island. So it's a national program. The people who apply are evaluated by foreign experienced evaluators. Most of them are alumni of the MIT, because we're borrowing the network of MIT. And by the way, I go back to that USA way of doing things, Alberto. It's all pro bono. All these amazing evaluators who have done well in their life by commercializing, most of them, their research, and want to give back, are those who we engage to evaluate the applications we receive from the Cypriot universities. So you can imagine the caliber of these evaluators. And then once we choose the very best from this evaluation process, we put them in a program, 18-month duration program, which offers to each one of the teams we accept grants, mentoring, training, and networking with the industry and potential investors. That's what we do. And we've been doing for the last 7 years. We ran we completed 3 cycles, and we are about to begin the 4th cycle of the Cyprus Seeds program.
Do you have any success stories out of these first 3 cycles that you want to mention?
I'm very proud to say that we have supported to date, in the last 7 years, 19 projects from almost all the universities and centers of excellence of Cyprus, from all areas you can imagine: life sciences, environment, art, drones, agrotech, space tech. You can imagine any sector of the economy. We received applications, which was a huge surprise to me. By the way, most of them are in the life sciences. I don't know why, but these are the data. And we have, out of the 19 projects, one project concluded a licensing agreement with a pharma company in the US to bring to the world a therapy for a problem, a gene problem that is, if you inherit it, you die very young from paralysis. So that is one of our projects, and it's in the clinical trial stages because it was one of the very first projects we supported from the Institute of Neurology and Genetics of Cyprus. And then from the remaining 18 projects, 6 of them spun out of their universities and are now running as startups. I consider that a huge success, because my objective as Cyprus Seeds is to take scientific teams who have the interest to commercialize and not just remain academics, and help them in the mindset, in the skills, and in the advancement of their product technology to the extent that they become attractive for private investors. So to reach the point of spinning out of your university and wanting to, go to investors, I think that's a huge success after 18 months in the Cyprus Seeds program. Yeah. And it's not only about the mindset change. We support those teams who join to protect their IP, their intellectual property. We started 7 years ago, and when we were telling the selected teams, have you protected your IP? They would say, what? Yeah, go back a few years. And it was that situation we faced in Cyprus. 7 years after, we're very proud to say that in the new cohort to be joining the 4th cycle, those who apply to Cyprus Seeds have all done already the IP protection. What does that tell you? It tells you that they know now what Cyprus Seeds is about. And only those who wish to take the advantage of the services we provide would apply to us.
What are the main hurdles, meaning, again, working with European scientists? European scientists are phenomenal, but they are very, very intellectually far from turning themselves into business owners, leaving the safe shores of the research labs and looking at potential navigating into the world of entrepreneurship. Is a totally different sea, uncharted waters, complicated. So what are the main hurdles that you have faced and you're still facing? Maybe you have maybe some anecdote, some story that you can tell of that might exemplify, because I think this is probably that you are living in Cyprus is probably is common everywhere in Europe, and not only. Again, we have very, very quality research, but a mentality that is very, very far from the US mentality of immediately thinking about what could be the potential business application of what we are doing. We just do research for the sake of doing research. So what are some hurdles, some problems? So if you can tell us a few stories that might be telling of this kind of complicated attitude that you're trying to crack.
You're absolutely right, Alberto. It's a struggle because there is this relationship between, in a scientific team, usually it's a principal investigator who is usually the faculty. The faculty is the one who has this idea usually, and then it's the PhD student who works on the research to take it further, and possibly a postdoc. So we focus in the projects we select, we focus on the PhD student because we think that is the likely person to be pursuing entrepreneurship, not the faculty. The faculty would never leave the university and dare be an entrepreneur because it's full of risks, that path. But beyond inspiring and engaging the PhD and sometimes the researcher with our program, there is that relationship between the PhD and the professor, because the professor wants him to finish his PhD and to spend less time on the rest. And we want the PhD to focus on what we are telling him, that is commercialization. So one challenge is the relationship between the PI and the scientist, the one to be the champion, if you like, in the entrepreneurial path. The second challenge is for the scientific innovation again, is the legislation in a country that supports or does not support commercialization. And you asked me for examples. For example, in Cyprus, any scientific team that wants to pursue innovation out of the university, especially the public universities, have to obey the rules of a particular legislation on the island that is, to say discouraging commercialization is an understatement. So I will not bother you with the details of that legislation, but seriously, the legislative framework in a country is critical to encouraging a scientist to pursue commercialization, but also very critical to inviting investors to invest in a scientific spin-off. The third challenge, which comes to mind based on my experience with the 3 cycles we have run, is the lack of funding for startups. The lack of funding is very important, as usually if you want a startup, an early startup to grow and remain alive, you're looking at the very early stage of a startup where there's little to show really. So for any investor for sure the banks are not looking at them and not supporting them. So for the better. Or even investors, actually, it's business angels, who might dare invest in an early stage startup. Now, well, in Cyprus, not only do we not have VC funding, we don't even have business angels, not enough. We may have a few, but not enough. So if there is a talented researcher or a PhD who is graduating around about the time that we finish our program and wishes to take it out, naturally, they would be looking for financial support before they have customers to bring in income, correct? Well, where is the financial support? It's hard to find. In our case, with our projects, what we do, we take our very best to Greece and we bring them in front of investors in Greece, because the startup ecosystem in Greece is more mature. They started earlier with the support to startups. They started earlier with the creation of VC funds, maybe 12 years ago. So now there is an abundance of VC funding, especially for early stage. And that is what we are looking for. So there is a change in the ecosystem that has happened over a period of 12 years. Luckily, we, the Cypriot ecosystem, can capitalize on that more mature ecosystem, which is not foreign to us.
Yeah.
And yet another ecosystem that is of course of great maturity and is offering quite a lot to early startups is the UK one, which is again, UK is extremely familiar to the Cypriots. Maybe you know. Everybody goes to study in the UK from Cyprus. Every refugee from the 1974 war who couldn't manage went to England. So there's a community, a Cypriot community in England, and a lot of us know and feel familiar with the UK. So this is why Cyprus Seeds, beyond operating in Cyprus, has reached out to do smart partnerships. I call them smart partnerships with one accelerator in Greece called Enter Grow Go, which is supported by one of the biggest banks in Greece, and that's exactly what we do. But there, if we put our teams into that program along with ours, one complements the other, they have the chance to be exposed to a bigger market. It's not only the Greek market, it's the European market, and to be exposed to others, the Greek startups. So this benefits our lot who are in an island and have a more insular behavior. And most recently, I've been looking at a program in England, maybe you know it, it's called Conception X. It's a spin out of two scientists from UCL and one from Oxford, who are focusing on creating ventures from PhD students. It's exactly what we are trying to do. So here I am now, looking to do a partnership with Conception X, as my teams in the new cohort, if they were to join that program, they would be exposed to a bigger market. They would be pressured to look and move faster to the customers. It's all about that, moving to the customers at the beginning and getting feedback instead of trying to perfect your technology in the lab. And thirdly, they would be exposed to funding. If they have something worthy, then they would be given that opportunity to attract funding and remain alive and avoid the death valley. So here is how I look at the future of Cyprus Seeds. It's good to be on the island. There is talent, but I have to look outside this country to accelerate the mission of Cyprus Seeds.
Yeah, I think at the end, again, you can read in our name, being bridging to other ecosystem is the way. I think that if I need just to wrap up our conversation, and your story and the story of Cyprus Seed is that there is talent everywhere, because again, particularly in Europe, talent is very, very scattered. The problem is to provide wings and to provide valuable connection and to bridging, giving the proper support, giving the mindset, giving role models, because that's the other point, exposing to role models, and then giving them potentially the wings to fly higher, because of then connection with the local and the global is the most critical thing that we at Mind the Bridge will continue to try to foster. So thank you so much for this conversation. I think congratulations for all the job and the work that you guys have been doing thus far. Please continue, and let's touch base in a few months just to understand some other success stories. We are curious to know if the spin-off will be able to scale, and understanding also if the other project will be able to go over the clinical trial, becoming a proper product. I think this could be two phenomenal results. That has been the first seeds out these Cyprus seeds, they might grow into something significant, and then for sure something else will follow.
We are looking for those role models to be from Cyprus, the first ones. So you will be the first to hear about it.
I'm interested. Thank you.
I thank you for this opportunity indeed.